might not have been long enough between pedals.
It's alright, we stayed on the track. It's okay.
I've also realised I'm wearing the wrong slippers, so we'll see how we get on. I might have to change them.
Cool. Now I'm imagining racing slippers.
That's basically what they've become. I got used to driving in a set that had nearly disintegrated, and I can't find the same thing again. So I now put these on just for racing.
So you're not a sock sim driver?
No. No, it's too cold in my house for socks.
Ooh, I have to say, I like your approach through that hairpin on that lap. Might not be the fastest you've ever done it, but I like the short distance. That looks slightly different to the past.
It felt quite good as well, to be honest. Straight in with a 134, which is better than I usually start with.
That's good.
No, I was wrong.
It's okay though, because there was quite a lot we could improve on anyway, like that. Well done.
Yep, half a second up there. Screwed that up badly.
Turn 1 was really good. There's a couple of places obviously on this lap we definitely could improve on, but that's okay. You've still got quite a few laps left. Can't believe you still got that low 34 though. Nice effort.
Thanks.
Okay, that's 2 laps in a row. You've really nailed turn 1.
Yeah, just to give you an idea as to how little business I've got being in this race, Tony Kanan's turned up in it. Yeah.
I would have loved to have done this race.
Yeah, it seems to be going mad, to be honest. It's good for profile.
I'll definitely look out for other ones that they do.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. I don't really know how he pulls in so much support. He's got a moderate sized community, but nothing too massive. Right, this lap's a little bit quicker.
It's good. Track temp's about half what it was last time we did this in terms of degrees Celsius. So it should feel a little bit easier. Nice. You are significantly quicker though than before.
That's
And another decent turn 1 there.
That was a bit of a funny line through there, but never mind. yeah, I've certainly not been able to hit a 133 in only a couple of laps before.
It's the pressure of knowing I'm watching you. Okay, so in the next couple of laps, that corner we've just done there, I'd really love if we can exit the corner a little bit tighter to the inside. So we'll just want to sacrifice a tiny bit of pre-apex speed. So just a little tiny bit just before the apex, so you can get the angle, you get the car rotated slightly more, and then exit tighter, but obviously will be full throttle and tight. I think there's a tenth and a half or so just from not letting the car kind of push wide around the exit. It might be hard to make that gain happen because obviously you're used to doing it a certain way. Just see how easily you attempt to adapt. You're doing a really good job with this turn one. Are you consciously leaving a small gap between your throttle and brake?
I am still.
Sorry, no, I'm distracted.
Trying to get a bit more automatic with it.
Yeah, obviously it is just a muscle memory thing.
Making a point of thinking.
So this next corner then, just be slightly slower just before the apex to get a bit more rotation. And then drive off it a bit tighter. It might be a time lost to begin with, but I think there is ultimately a little bit of time gain. We'll maybe look at that in the data a bit more.
Okay.
Do it on a couple of laps. Do that attempted version on a couple of laps that I've just spoken about. And then we can see exactly how you're doing it as a comparison between a normal lap and a Brad style lap.
Yeah, I was about half an hour late on the brakes there.
No worries.
So slow down.
That's okay, that'll make it easy for us to find this lap in the data.
Yes, that's true.
That was nice. That was very, very tidy into there.
There we go.
Really nice effort. Really, really nice. That was almost textbook what I wanted you to do. Because you didn't overslow it on the entry, you just made sure you were going slow enough just at the kind of peak of the corner, just at the bit where you need to do the maximum rotation. It's very easy to attempt that, but go in too slow.
Yeah. Ah, that was an off track. That's a shame, that was a nice lap time.
Wow, really fast. Really fast. And another nice accurate turn one. Like, I'm not saying you're doing it perfectly, but you're not going super deep.
Yes. Oh.
And I'm just distracting you in turn two. So yeah, this turn two is definitely like slightly more of a problem corner than turn one is now, but that's fine. I'd rather like move the problem round the track a bit than never move it. And it's not the same thing. I just think you're being slightly greedy. I just think you're just like trying to be slightly late on the brakes. That's all. But that's very easily fixed, just by like being very disciplined So you nailed this next corner last time. I'm just going to leave you to it again. Yeah, there's a balance between obviously being super, super tight and carrying some kind of speed, because you can't hold it tight on the line and carry any kind of meaningful speed. But I think previously we might have just been slightly too far towards going wide as our compromise.
Yep. Sorry, excuse me.
It's alright. About 9 minutes to go in this run.
Okay.
Nice, that was good.
I missed it on that one.
That's
Although it
okay,
was fast.
not terrible, yeah, not terrible at all. It looked like a decent compromise. It's not like a perfect answer there, because it's not like my way is just the absolute best way. I've just found a bit of time by just not allowing it to go super wide, that's all. So somewhere in the middle is absolutely fine.
Oh shit.
We'll move some focus onto the bus stop in our next little chat. So but that definitely looks like the bit that is the most painful for you each lap.
I seem to struggle with consistency, but then I am trying to push it at the moment.
Yeah, yeah.
I was talking to somebody who said I was braking too early, but it is difficult to get away with later braking. So I think I'm trying to kind of
Oh, that was really nice apex.
experiment. Oh, it was. On the 10th up.
We were a little bit late on the brakes that time. I think what you did after that, what you did once you started the corner, was a decent effort. It was like a good salvage operation, but we were just a little bit too brave on the brakes initially. But still not terrible.
Really, I'll admit. Well, 400's up, but I'll take it.
Nice. I think probably another 3 laps, and then we're done. Oh, was that just trying to not be greedy? Or did you just like lock the rears by trying to overslow it? Or was it just too much brake pressure?
It was too much brake pressure.
That was a really unusual one. I've not seen you do that before. So, and that looked like a good lap up to that point as well. So,
it was actually a little slow, that one. Not horribly.
Okay.
It was down a little bit. I think that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to be a bit greedy there. Make the apex, but cut the braking a bit late.
Right, so two more laps then. Let's get 2 more times down, and then we'll have a little break.
Okay.
I've got a couple of like real minor tweaks that I'm going to ask you to make that will be super easy for you to do. That won't really gain you much, but it'll gain you like a couple of thousandths every lap. But then we'll look at bus stop.
That'll do over 10 hours. Nice apex. You do have to be careful with losing the rear on the exit, but that is definitely the kind of line that I wanted you to try and get to. It's obviously easy to get on the gas too hard and lose the rear, so you just have to be slightly careful as you apply the throttle, but as soon as you can get to full throttle, you're on a nice short line. Made some of my lost time up.
Cool. Right, let's just do one more lap then, one more time lap.
Right, come on, put it all together. No.
That's all right. You can stop it there if you want, since this one's dead.
Yep. Okay.
So just make sure you hop out of the car as well.
pits.
Yeah, perfect. And
Yep.
you're out of the car, so like in the options screen. Cool. Right. Okay. So a couple of things. Let's just go on. We'll take your best lap just because. But there's a couple of things. We're going to skip through most of it. I think turn 1 we've pretty much put to bed now. You were like kind of the opposite to last week. You weren't inconsistently sometimes missing it. Sometimes it was okay. It looked really decent pretty much every time now. That's the corner that I was most confident watching you through today. Aside from like very slightly, sometimes you go a tiny bit wider than other times. In general, turn 1 looked really good today. So let's forget that one for today. Whatever you're doing there now is working well, so that's cool. But there's a couple of like micro tweaks I want to make you do before we move on to looking at bus stop. So first one is your line, your approach into this corner, so into turn 2. Pretty much every lap we were on like this line where we were leaving a massive gap to the left, and despite having quite a lot of time to get over to the left, so I was just looking to see if there's any reason we didn't on this one. Obviously, if there's cars leaving the pits or whatever, you can't do it. We seem to always end up somewhere near this black line here. If I just take another random example, let's go for this one, this 33.7. Let's see what we do on this one. Yeah, so again, we're always like here. And what seems to be happening is when you arrive at your turning point, you're just making this hairpin like a bit artificially tight, that's all. And obviously, sometimes this corner is difficult. But it would be slightly easier if you were like a car width or a car and a half width more to the left. I don't think we've ever picked up on this before. Maybe we did. Let's just look at another random example of the next lap.
It is something I do consistently. On my own practice, I didn't really find any time going further left, but that may just be that I'm making other mistakes.
So you're probably right. There's probably not a lot of time in doing it. Just like there probably wouldn't be a lot of time maximizing the width of any of the other corners. You know, if you can do it well from this point, it won't be a huge time gain. But I think what you might find is you'll probably or hopefully be able to consistently make it more accurately. Because obviously this was a corner where we would sometimes go really, really deep. And I think it's because, like, I mean, it's just that there's no reason why this should be any different to any other corner where you try and maximise the width. We've just basically made it at this point that you're going to have to use more steering angle to get round this corner. Whereas if you were wider to the left, you could get away with a bit less steering angle at a certain phase of the corner. So try it, but don't try it carrying any more speed. So on the next run, go pretty much all the way left, but don't use that as an excuse to then enter at a higher speed, because then we'll just move the problem slightly further around the corner and you'll probably go really deep off over this way somewhere. So just kind of do it similarly. Just give yourself more space to play with, and I think it might just be a little bit nicer. You will ultimately, I know I said don't go in quicker, you will give yourself the ability to just roll off the brakes a little bit earlier and just use the front tyres to scrub more. At this angle that we're on now, you're having to do a higher percentage of the deceleration with the brake pedal than if you were a bit wider and you had like more of an arc into the corner. You could flip round into a higher percentage than it currently is of the deceleration being the turn itself and like just the normal scrub of the front tyres. It won't be completely night and day, and like you said, it probably isn't a big time gain, but if it means you can do it accurately every lap, then that would be a really good thing. So right, so that's that one. Next micro change. So let's ignore this corner because you know what to do here now. Like you've seen hopefully a lap time delta difference. So just keep trying that. Like I can't really say much to you other than you've done it very, very well on a couple of laps. Try and aim to do that rather than having your kind of higher exit speed but much longer distance version. If you can kind of practice that technique, that's great. Because I think it is quicker. It's definitely the one that I tried to end up doing.
I think on my best lap it was worth about 0.2.
Okay, so that
I just need to get consistent with that.
So that would be really, really good. We'll look at I think, was it this best one here? Was it the 33.7? Well, I think you also did it very well on the 40, but we'd lost time in another place. But just before we dwell on that, there's another thing I want to say before I forget it. In fact, 2 more micro changes. So, yeah, so this lap, that wasn't a good one this lap. But when we go around this corner here, so first of all, I think we're giving, this is why I say micro, I think we're giving away a tiny bit of distance just by being away from the inside around here. Like, I think we could just be forcing it slightly tighter. However, when we leave the banking, we seem to have a tendency to just stay to the left on the exit of this banking.
Yeah.
And then you have to make the transition down the straight. Like that was actually a relatively smooth one. But on other laps, we're like on the left and then halfway down the straight, you have to do like a bit of an S. It definitely will not, it's not going to give you a massively quicker lap time. But just let the car flow literally the smoothest line out towards the wall. Like from here, just the shortest, kind of smoothest line outwards. Just as you release the steering, rather than having to like drive it to the wall down the straight, like you're kind of having to do at this point. It really won't make a massive difference, but just because it will make me happier. We'll look at the bus stop separately. Again, I think there's a little bit of distance here that we're giving away sometimes, and it's because it doesn't matter a lot, but it's going to just add up, just like over hours and hours of driving. Little bit every time. If you can just shorten this, and also on the exit, so I mean all the way around here, which is going slightly further than we need to, and then when we get to the exit of here, same thing, just be like as tight as you can. Literally just take the shortest possible distance. I found like a few hundredths when I started doing that, because when I did this race with, it wasn't this year, it would have been last year or the year before, I did it with like a team who were a bit more serious than I tend to take it. They were on my case about it, because they were like, you're just giving away time. I know it's not a lot of time, but you're just giving away time. You
Yeah,
don't
but
need
it's
to.
still time.
So just go slightly tighter, and then you don't give away time because it's easily flat out whether you go this wide or that wide. Over the course of this entire banking, it's probably like 2 meters or 3 meters or something, and maybe more, which is some hundredths, maybe one even. But okay, so let's just quickly look at bus stop then before you go again, because I don't want us to run out of time on this run. So I'll look at data for this because this is a bit more in depth. Let's bring up this data. So this was your previous run and my previous run, both of us in hot temperatures. So this is not. This is going to be worst case scenario. Let's just see what you were doing in the past, and then we'll look at what you're doing today. So here we go. So bus stop. So our braking profile was similar. Oh, I remember, yeah. So I was just having a little bit of an extra brake just as we reached the second apex. So there's like 1, 2, 3, 4 apexes, obviously, with those 4 curbs. And I was just having a little touch of the brake, quite significant, like nearly 50% dab of the brakes.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that.
At that second apex. Right at the point I want the car to start transitioning into like a right-hand turn. And I think that was just allowing me to maximise the entry speed a bit more because you were still making it, obviously, but in order to do that same rotation, you were having to go in a little bit slower. You did come off the corner better, so this isn't like I've done it perfectly, but it just shows there's a little bit of scope for that. Let's have a look at what you're doing now, though. So let's add today's laps. What did we do today? What was our fastest? 33.2. I assume on this 33.2 we were pretty happy with the bus stop. Let's just look to make sure it's a representative
I think
one.
that might have been a lap where I off-tracked.
Okay. Oh, yeah, maybe it was. Maybe it was. Yeah, so maybe that was a bit too tight on that one. So should we go for this?
On the way in.
Should we go for the
I
7?
think the 7 was okay.
Let's go for this 7. We'll just have a quick zip round to there. Again, I'm now really noticing the distance to the inside of the banking when I'm watching here. Like, it feels like there's a bit of a gap. I'm sure I do it a little bit as well. But, right, let's have a look here. So I think we've got some space to go. No, not a lot. It felt like there was a bit more. I think we could probably just use a fraction more, but yeah, not a lot. Yeah, so it sounds, you can't hear it, but it sounds to me like there's a kind of slight coasting period.
Yeah, there is.
There.
I'm still doing that.
It's just there. So I think if we, so we're using that coasting period to make sure you're going slow enough to make the rest of the corner, which is a completely legitimate thing to do. It's just I think there's a bit more maximisation to come here if our feedback loop of inputs that you can have is tightened up a bit. So instead of it being like entry, okay, that was okay, we'll wait, the front's gripped, exit. If we make it entry, what can I do? A little bit of brake, can I get the nose in? Yeah, that's gone in better, back on the gas, and like really tighten up the like monitoring of exactly how much we could be doing to influence the car's attitude through each phase of this corner. It's obviously way harder work, but it won't be as hard work once you've practiced it a bunch of times. But at the moment, it's definitely this does look like one of your best times through here, and it's tidy, wait, go, which is like it was definitely not bad. I think there's just more speed potential. So let's load this one then. So that was a 33.7. Let's just bring that up as our. So is it a 725 or a 757? 757.
757.
So this one here, let's add him. And let's make him bright green so it's obvious. Okay, so let's have a look. So yeah, similar to before. Really similar to before, actually, with your technique. You went in very slightly quicker, but then you slowed down a little bit more, but it was essentially identical to what you did last time, with the big difference being that today you've got much more grip. So really today you should be able to go through faster. You're running less fuel when you did that same lap, and it was like less than half the temperature. So it's like really, really much more grippy. So there's definitely potential, even if you kept similar technique. But I think you can go in, so let's just say, as you hit the first apex, I'm doing like 30k more. So there's definitely more potential for entry speed. I'm also using more steering angle. If I zoom right in down here, my steering angle is slightly more than both of yours, so like 10 degrees more. I think I'm like forcing it a little bit harder into that left to make sure I've then opened up the right part of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The key, though, is we need to be carrying more speed all the way up to apex. Where's my minimum? So my minimum speed is too late, so I can see that for sure. I actually would be better off walking my style slightly back towards yours, halfway back, and maybe making my minimum speed in the middle. That would be probably the target. So this wasn't a perfect version, but definitely it shows that there's potential for this higher entry speed. So we want to go in quicker, but then dab the brakes rather than waiting. We've just got, as you know, we've just got like a bit of a big coasting period. You are then back on the gas much earlier than I was, so that's why you can see both of your lines are better than mine on the exit. But even though I've screwed this up a bit by going in a bit too quick in the middle, I've still had a net gain of, so it was -2 there. Yeah, I've still had a net gain of a couple of tenths or so, which is, there's more potential if I don't go in way too fast. So basically, maybe don't attempt it 30k higher, but maybe 10k higher with a little brake. Rather than 30k higher but with a 50% brake, like 10k higher but with like a 25% dab of the brakes just as you arrive at that first apex. Because that will very quickly scrub off the extra speed. That will very quickly like bring you down to the speed you need to be going to make that right-hander. And it'll put the weight on the nose, that's the main thing. So I'm actually holding that brake on for 3852. It's like 70 meters. There is some form of braking happening, but harder at first and then like a little bit of maintenance. So even if you don't do that much, because I've done that much because I've realized, oh shit, I'm actually going a bit too quick. Even if you do a little bit less, I think there is a significant time gain through here if you can nail it. So right, I'll shut up now. I think we've talked enough. So main things, try going wider into turn 2, the first hairpin. It's probably not called turn 2, it's probably called turn 4. But just try starting wider, but still taking it slow. And it should just feel easier, if nothing else. And even if there's no time gain, but it's easier to not run wide, that's great. Next 2 corners, we don't need to change much. You know what we're aiming for through those. Shortest possible line in the banking areas, but let it run wide onto the back straight. That's the least important of all the things I've said, but if you can do it, great. Bus stop is the key. Slightly quicker entry, but then apply brake because you know you've got in quicker, so you're going to need a dab of the brakes as you arrive in the middle, or at the second apex. And then super, super short line round the final banking and down the next straight, even though it feels unnatural holding it so tight out of the final corner, because you don't need to go wide and it's just the shortest distance to the line. It'll gain us some meters. Right, that's it. Let's do it. Let's go. Let's do another run the same. And let's run until the session runs out, which is like 23 minutes from now.
Okay.
Track temp is exactly the same as before.
Right. Sorry.
That's all right. Don't worry. I'm glad
it's lap 1. I'm thinking cold tyres.
That's fine. I'm glad you noticed, though. Ooh.
Good God.
So just think about the distance you're leaving to the inside here.
Yep.
And here, yeah, exactly. Just like that.
Right.
Obviously, you do have to run wide for turn 1 on the approach.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh.
That was so good. It was damage is turned off, by the way, so you can carry on. The car shouldn't be broken.
Cool.
That was so good that you got on the grass. Like,
Yes.
take that as a positive because you managed to get so tight to the apex you caught yourself out. That's nice. That looks nicer to my eyes.
Yeah, I need to figure out where I can put the gas down in the middle, but it was green for a lot of that corner.
That's more like it. Lovely. Thank you.
That's okay.
It'll be hard to judge that braking. So we maybe went
Yeah.
in slightly too quick that time because you're trying to get a feel. You're trying to go in fast and see what you can get away with.
Yes.
So don't worry if it goes wrong a couple of times. And also judging exactly how hard to press the brakes when you do your second like mini brake application. You know, what to do with the steering at the same time. It'll take a while to get a feel for how the car reacts.
Yep. This is the tricky bit, isn't it? It's the breaking bad habits and developing good ones.
Yeah, exactly. But you've done really well doing it at turn 1 here. Well done with the short line there.
Thank you. That was good. I'm 3/10 up.
It looked good.
Sadly, I was 2/10 down on the way into the corner, so.
Nice effort into there. I don't know what the delta was like, but it looked quicker on the way in, and you kept it together in the middle. So definitely a good starting point.
Good in the way in. I screwed up the braking and I've lost time on the way out.
Okay.
But I can sort of see where it's starting to come together, which is useful. I think I'm coming off the brakes too late to get back on them properly.
I think we can also get slightly more left through the first apex. So I think we're being... I know you don't want to be too much on the grass, but I think we're being very slightly too legal on the initial entry part of the corner.
Oops.
We can blame that on me talking to you in the braking zone. First two laps
all
though, nice decent 33s. Pretty consistent. Your rear tyres look like they're really getting a bit hot.
Some of it's me experimenting, trying to take that last one wider as well to see if I can get anything out of it. No was the answer on this occasion. I keep thinking about the banking or the exit, never the two together.
Yeah, yeah. That looked nice. I don't know what the time was. It looked nice.
It is up.
It was tidy for sure. Yeah, this is the one where I want you to go short all the way around and onto the straight. Well, considering you missed turn 1 on that last lap, that's a really decent lap time.
I missed what it was.
There's a 34.6, but, like, you lost a lot in the first corner.
Yeah, I did.
And you had some big oversteer in these next corners too, so... Second half of the lap must have been excellent.
Oh, that was a shame. I lost everything on that one.
You're consistently nailing that apex. We're just maybe a tiny bit too hard on the gas initially, that's all. Just that kind of... It's so hard with this hybrid as well, with it having loads of torque. It does overcome the rears quite easily. But
Yes.
just keep doing it. You'll get used to that because I think the gain on the entry is worth it.
That was too late. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. We're just a little bit late getting the right-hand lock on. I think because you're used to maybe being slightly slower at that point, you can get away with, you know, a slightly more delayed steering application. You have to be really on top of it if you're pushing the limits of the speed through there with your timings.
Yes. Right, that's 3.5 tenths up in just that corner. That's nearly all of it lost in that.
Yeah,
one.
we're just a little bit too quick into there. That's all right. Don't worry. You're doing really well. It's good that you're being hard on yourself now because, you know, it means your natural baseline is being raised all the time now, what you expect.
Yes.
Like, when you make a smallish mistake, yeah, it's obvious now, so... Just remember the distance through here.
Yep.
Until about now. Yeah, lovely.
Ah, bollocks. I thought that looked too good.
Yeah, so we'll have a look at that when we're done. I'm certain it's just because we're not using enough apex curb on the left on the way in. Because you actually did it all really nicely. In fact, I'm just going to go look back at the replay now whilst you do the next few corners, just so I know for sure.
Okay. If you want me to jump out and back in for
No.
telemetry upload, then I can.
No, it's fine. I can see it. Yeah, we gave away about 1.5 meters of entry curb, and that's why you were then a bit too tight for the next part. That was all. And you actually got on the gas a bit early. That was the other thing. In the middle, you were slightly too keen to get on the power. The little combination of things.
It's back to that tricky thing, isn't it? If the difference between mediocre and excellent is like minor adjustments absolutely everywhere.
For sure.
with the off track. This next one should be a half decent lap. No.
Okay, so for sure, it's definitely that entry curb is what's making this difficult for you. So
Okay.
try and actually on this next lap, basically try and hit the grass when you hit the first left-hand apex in the bus stop chicane. I'm just going back to look again.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think you're getting off track. I think you can be. I mean, you were definitely more. You were closer that time. Yeah, I think we need to be like half a car width or a third of a car width further left when the curb ends. It'll be obvious when you see the replay, but even if you're risking that was nice. Even if you're risking an off track, like cut the left more to give you more space when you then have to go right.
Okay.
Oh, nice and short through there as well. Well done.
Yes. That was too fast.
Just a little bit too fast. It's the right idea, just a little bit too fast. Yeah, so when you get to the bus stop this time, imagine that the grass is actually a bit of curb. So, I mean, at the end of the curb where it turns to grass, you can use that bit of grass as curb on this left-hander coming up. Yeah, like that. Just like that. Was that an off track?
It wasn't. So let me practice that again.
Yeah, that line was really good.
Braking in the middle.
I'm just going back to look at that on a replay. But that was...
So when into that corner should I be coming off the brakes? Because that's what I'm struggling with at the moment. Because you know where you're getting back on them.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
I'm
I'll
having
look
trouble being off it to be back on it, if that makes sense.
I'll look at the data now, and I'll tell you. So I am off the brakes just as I arrive at that first curb, which is
right. Okay.
Which is slightly before you normally come off the brakes. You normally stay on slightly longer. So I'm off the brakes, and then so there's a definite gap between brake again, but it's a short gap, but definitely that line you did on that last lap was much better into there. It's such subtleties, it's such small tweaks. Okay, yeah, just make sure you don't try and push on with the gas when you know. I knew you knew that wasn't going to make it, and you were like, well, we'll just try it anyway. You've got to know you're going to make that second apex. Sorry, that third apex, the third and fourth one. I'm just looking now. I can't look at the data, obviously. We'll look at the end. But yeah, there was a point where you went through that corner on that lap. Everything was really good. And if you just waited to get on the gas, waited like 0.2 longer, you were going to make that easily. So that was all perfect except for your eagerness to get back on the gas. Apex 1 and 2 were absolutely perfect on that last lap. Oh, sorry, I've just gone back live and we're backwards. I have been talking a lot.
Fine. It's nothing to do with your talking.
Okay, your entry was mega on that last lap. It was almost like you realised you got a great entry. And that made you really keen to get on the gas because you're like, yeah, let's make the most of this. But you still have to be slightly patient getting on the throttle.
Yes. So let's bring down the bars, they're addictive. Right, that was too slow that time.
This lap wasn't ever going to be the best one of the session, so...
No, I'm 5.5 seconds down.
We just need to wait a little bit longer again for the gas. I know it's so annoying because you don't want to waste exit time.
It's my brain trying to fit the extra brake dab in.
Yeah, exactly. And I appreciate you're going slower now than you would have done before because you're trying to do something that's not coming naturally.
Yes, exactly.
When you finish this run, we'll have a look at the data and we'll see where the slight disconnect is. But
yep.
You managed it at other corners, and you've really implemented things well, so we can do it here too. The bus stop is the trickiest bit, though. The bus stop is horrible. Okay, so that's definitely a good starting point there. I don't know how quick it was on the Delta, but in terms of like tidiness and a good baseline, that was decent.
Within a couple of hundredths of my best.
Okay, good.
But the fact I've got the order right, I know there's stuff to tidy up in there.
Yeah. Because you'll now be able to start increasing the entry speed, because that was a slightly slow entry still. But I'd rather that and you're like keeping it all together. Because what we're trying to do is get the same kind of quality of exit that you've previously been getting, but just improving on the entry speed.
Yes. I need to practice the cameras and stuff for that corner. Taking it wider seems to make me struggle to keep it under control, but I'll get there on my own under practice. It's just a rinse and repeat 100 times job.
I think taking that first hairpin wide, I think your rear tyres might be suffering it. Yeah, taking that hairpin a bit wider entices you to maybe try and carry a bit more early entry speed, something like that.
Yes.
I'll tell you what it is. It's because normally when you're tighter, like I was saying before, you're having to do all your braking in a straight line, which means it's more stable, but it's potentially not quite as quick.
Yeah.
I think you've got time for one more lap before the checker comes out.
Okay. Right. Full concentration.
I think your rear tyres are just screwed.
I think they're knackered. I was really careful on that exit and still had the rest of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's looked tricky for a few laps.
Yep, there's the checkered flag. No. Are you hitting fourth on the first entry?
Let's have a look. Good question. Let's have a look. Right, so in terms of gear changing in sync, I think I'm doing what you're doing. I'm going down, down. I'm down to fourth just as I hit that second apex. Just before. Similar to you, you historically have been going down slightly earlier than me. So your fastest lap today, you were down to fourth at the first apex, and I was down to fourth at the second apex of the 4. So, yeah, just kind of catching it a little bit later. But let's see what it was like on that run for you. I assume you're out of the car now.
I am.
Let's grab one of these. So what would have been which lap do we want? What was the most representative? You did some good ones early, but some of these that were slower were actually good through the bus stop. I'm just going to have a little look. It was one of these final ones you did it really well. That one looks like grass, so it wasn't that one. Let's go for... Let's try this 140. I just want to take one that was like representative of how you can do it. Not that one. Let's try this 134-1. There's quite a lot of laps to look through. And my memory's awful.
Good, so is mine.
Okay, so that one, 134-1, it didn't look super fast, but it was tidy. Let's just see what you did on that lap. So 134-157. I need to just refresh. So none of these. One 134-157. That'll be this one here, I guess. I think that's the one. Just check the conditions. That'll give us an idea. Oh, weird. The purple lap thinks it's been deleted. Weird. Why would that have been deleted?
Still uploading, maybe.
But that's but it was a lap we already had. That was the lap from your first run, which was 133.757. Let's just find out. It's this one. I just re-add it. Yeah, weird. That just had a bit of a glitch. Okay, so let's make that one. We had it green before. Let's keep it green. And the one from your latest session, we're ignoring the lap time, but just looking at the technique you were doing. Let's make that. Oh, I don't know whether I can see yellow, but we'll try that, and then we'll have a little look. Okay, yeah, so you can see clearly you were trying to go in faster. So that's good. So we can see that. The yellow line, if I zoom just into this bit, yeah. So you were trying a higher speed. Still, we're quite a chunk below, I think, a potential speed. But looking at your braking, I can see what you're trying to do here. So you're braking a little bit earlier than me. I know there's a lot of coloured lines here. But you're then keeping the brakes on and then coming off. But very similar in terms of when you do your final off to when I do my first off. I had a little bit longer though. So there's a little bit more in the middle bit that we might have not... You know, when I said we do a second brake, what I didn't say was we kind of do a second and a little third brake. So that third one I think might be key here. Because, so first of all, your second brake, that I can see what you're trying to do here, it's not a distinct second brake separate from the first one. It's kind of a continuation. Yeah, it's subconsciously, it looks like you have done it again, and you've done it in exactly the place where we were talking about, but maybe not hard enough, so 20% rather than 50%. And then there's this extra one here. I think this explains maybe why you were struggling to get it really rotated towards the end. Having said that, also you went down to that fourth later as well. So
yeah, I think I've screwed up when my gear change happens. I'm concentrating on other parts of the corner and forgetting my gear change.
Yeah, and
so
also
I need to tidy all that up.
The fact that you're going that much slower at the same point, like 25-ish kilometers an hour, means you could have done your downshift even earlier than me. but we left it later. So I think there's like a combination. These are all subtle things all working together, but the way the brake is interacting with the way the weight's shifting, plus the downshift will also, having that downshift in sync with that will also just be a momentary weight shift. I think those things together, plus probably the line. Well, we look at the steering trace here. You know, I said we can probably be slightly further to the left. I'm going to super zoom in on this bit here. The blue line, my steering, is still on that initial turn-in, still using more of that entry curve, you know, turning in more earlier, which is then, I think, allowing me... I think that's then allowing me... Where are we back here? If I zoom back to here. That's then allowing me to have a slightly easier run of it here. Having said all that, again, remember, I did not perfect this. I kind of screwed up the exit a bit. But the entry phase, I think, is representative. Because you can see then your yellow one, the one that you did in that last run, you then, at the point where the rest of us being me and your other laps, are reducing steering lock, you're having to apply even more than normal. So it's kind of, you've not quite got all of the things, all of the different components melded together to make it come off perfectly, but you're heading in that direction. I can kind of see the evolution of your technique through here, like what you're trying to do, because the yellow line on the steering trace down here is definitely very different to what you did on the red and the green. You can see it's more similar to my blue there. It's almost just gone a bit too far, because I don't know how to explain it, because it's not like you're going way too fast, because I'm going quicker than you at that same point and still managed to come off the corner. I think it's the angle of the car, which we can't see. That's one of the things we're missing on this data is...
I do feel in this GTP, the midpoint of the bus stop, I'm still quite tight when I'm turning.
Okay.
Whereas the only car I ever really perfected this in was the GT3 about a year ago. And I was much... After this bit, I was wider on the middle point when aiming for the exit, which is probably coming from your speed again. So tighter angle and higher speed, and you're washing out further, which, if you see my line here, I'm not looking at the exit of the corner, I'm looking at the grass.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're completely right.
And you're probably a few metres left with a nicer looking exit.
Yeah, I think you're just slightly pressed too far. And I know this looks like you can't really use much more here. Like, this is not bad at all. But it's this angle here. That's the key.
Where I'm coming off it.
It's the angle of the car here. If I could rotate your car, like, to this angle where my cursor is, so you're like, just... It's easier to show you this with my hands if I could point, but I can't. But if the car could rotate to the left a bit at this point, I think that is the subtle difference that would tie all those other things together. I think we're coming in a little bit shallow on the initial turn-in, and the amount of I think we're too far from the wall a bit too early here. I think this is part of it. So if we went in a fraction later, but rather than because this amount of curb is great, but I want you to be using this amount of curb at the angle that's more towards the left, just here, just kind of tweaking that. That will then, exactly like you said, that will put you slightly further left here, a little bit wider in the middle, and you see how you're already turning right here. You're like artificially pressing yourself up tight here. Like you've created this problem where you've now got no room to make the exit with a high speed. And if the car, and you've got loads of lock on right now, obviously, if the car was on this black line, like literally half a car width to the left, maybe a full car width, or maybe 2/3 of a car width, if that's where you'd ended up naturally, then you've gained on the entry speed, and you've then got a nice line to exit. And it's really, I think, that, which you're not seeing in the data, but it explains the data. I think that's how the rest is. That's how I'm able to do this, because looking at what you've done there on this replay, you cannot be going any quicker right now and still make that corner. You're going pretty much as quick as you can because you just about make it. But I'm somehow making it with a higher temperature, less grip, and at a higher speed, with a very similar exit. I think because when you look at the blue line, the yellow line, we actually come off the corner at very, very similar speed. So there must be a way that's happening. I think it's just the positioning as we go in. Yep. It's like that entry and mid-corner positioning.
That's okay. Plus, homework. Nothing wrong with that.
Plus that little bit of residual brake if you need it. That's the other thing. I think it's that cutting down the feedback loop to the smallest possible cycle time, and realizing in the moment, do I need a little bit more, like right then, and then coming off. And it's easier said than done, obviously. But just bear in mind that you've got that option. Like, there's that extra little tool available to you. It's so common for people to set up a corner and then like wait, like, you know, steady state, wait for it to finish, and then off we go again. When we could have been like manipulating the controls if we had slow motion ability, manipulating the controls all the way through. So there's that little bit of extra scope to do it. But this is certainly the hardest thing. You know, you're going so fast, and it's so hard to make everything we just spoke about happen. And, you know, I'm showing you an example lap of what would have probably been my best lap in whatever session this was. I probably did it wrong loads of times. So, but as long as you're aiming for this, or something like this, because I still think somewhere halfway between what you're doing and what I'm doing is probably the better compromise. But there is a couple of tenths, probably. So thanks for listening to me again. Sorry the session ended on track slightly early, but at least it gives us time to chat for ages.
No, you're absolutely fine. Do not worry.
Cool. Okay, so we are next. I'll just write up those notes in a minute, but we are next out. It's Monday. We spoke about this?
Monday at 3 p.m. I believe.
Cool. So not long. Yeah. Thank you for being flexible with that. It just means means I'm not getting to my hotel at 2 a.m. with a really early start the next day. Monday the.
Are you allowed to talk
4th.
About what you're doing? Is it anything
interesting? No, it's not particularly interesting. It's certainly not confidential. It's the UK launch of the new Renault Scenic, which comes out in like August. But we're taking a car. It's parked out the front of the house here. We're taking it to various Renault dealerships and training the staff about what's new about it, what's special, giving them a chance to test drive it, that kind of thing. So, not motorsport related at all.
A man of your skill was needed for a Renault Scenic.
Well,
I assumed a 45-year-old woman with 4 children was probably more appropriate.
So it's certainly not anything sporty, but it's also not slow because it's electric. It's still pretty quick, but it's purely because the company the agency that does these events for vehicle manufacturers called Pro Drivers, and the people who own it, or the main owner at least, was a rally driver, has lots of race driver friends. They've been doing it for like 25 years, doing similar things, this company, and they just happen to employ race instructors as like most of the people, I guess, because I think because they can give us a brand new car and first of all trust that it's probably not going to get crashed, although there have been instances where people have Charlie Butler Henderson, do you know Charlie Butler Henderson? He was a BTCC driver. Sure. It's Vicky Butler Henderson's brother.
That name rings a bell.
From like Fifth Gear and stuff. Anyway, he's like a relatively high profile guy. He took the mickey a bit once and rolled the new Audi RS3 when that came out. But that's quite a rare occurrence, and he didn't work for them again. But anyway, long story short, they employ race drivers and race instructors. So that's it. So I'm just doing this completely mundane tour.
Fair enough.
With a bunch of people who are all like rally drivers or race drivers or whatever. It's just really funny. Anyway,
keeps the mortgage paid. It'll do.
Exactly. So that's what I'm doing. So thanks for being flexible. Right, I'm going to write up these notes. Cool. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and
yes,
hopefully you've got some things to work on. I'll stop the video recording.